Welcome back to the channel. I thought I'd do another video while I was out here. A lot of people ask, it was going back to when I was a professional speaker. I was on the road for about 20 years as a motivational speaker, and I spoke in the education space. And I learned as a speaker that people wanted to know whatever topic you had. Now, my topic was basically resilience. My message was simple. It's not what happens to you in life that matters. It's what you do about it that makes all the difference. I didn't invent that either, but what I wanted to do with this video is justify, that's what we have to do as speakers, justify why should I listen to you, right? What right do you have to talk to me about resilience? What have you been through and how have you coped? Why should I listen to you? So I'm going to tell you my story in just a brief video here. Let's go back to when I was 3 years old, because that's when my mother, I remember asking her, she first noticed my Tourette's. I have Tourette syndrome, a neurological disorder characterized by tics, right? Facial tics, sudden involuntary jerky movements. And because it's a syndrome, everybody manifests this disorder differently. And anybody that has this disorder manifests it differently because it's a syndrome and it's a neurological, meaning central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, right? So different co-occurring conditions can occur with this. I deal with the generalized anxiety disorder. I'm prone to seasonal depression. Some people, I have OCD tendencies, obsessive compulsive tendencies, but I've learned how to navigate these. And that's the whole essence of resilience, is being knocked down by life or whatever's coming at you and being able to get back up despite what happens to you. So what have I gone through? Tourette syndrome. I've had that since I was 3. It got really bad around my adolescence. I was on the couch before it, and this was a very pivotal point. My body was going through the changes of puberty. It was around 14, and the Tourette's went off the charts. Not only did I have full body involvement doing this ticking 20 hours a day, about 4 hours of interrupted sleep a night, I had a biting tic, and I was chewing on my cheeks on either side, and my cheeks swelled up, and I couldn't even put food on it. I couldn't take solid food anymore. My mother would make a milkshake twice a day and drop a raw egg in it so I would have some sort of nourishment. Um, I ground the front teeth out of my mouth. If you are a teeth grinder, that's caused by stress. If people grind their teeth in their sleep, I did it while I was awake. And these 6 front teeth I ground out of my mouth, if you can imagine. Very, very painful. And it's something that I had to deal with. And I wasn't diagnosed until I was 16 years of age, right? Now, that was late. Up until then, we had no idea. My family doctor had no idea what was the matter with me. I didn't. The kids would come up to me in school. My friends say, what do you do that for? And I had no idea why I did it. I had no idea why I made these weird motions. I didn't have the vocalizations, right? But I did have the very severe tics. So I went through that, and I had, like I said, what they call a concomitant co-occurring anxiety disorder. So when the Tourette's and the tics would get bad, the anxiety would escalate. It was just you were kind of tired and wired. Worst feeling in the world. I also am prone to depression when the sun, that's why I'm in Florida. I live in Florida because of the sun. I follow the sun. Um, as a result of Tourette syndrome and not knowing what was the matter with me, right? And even after diagnosis, they didn't really have a protocol for treatment for it. So I didn't know what was going on. I started self-medicating with alcohol, marijuana. I never did any hard drugs, but in a short time, I became alcoholic. And now I have been in recovery and sober for almost 25 years. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done, was trying to get sober. But it was part of the story, right? And I got sober in a 12-step program, and life is good, because I'll tell you what I've done after you hear all this, what I've gone through. I'll tell you what I did after, I dealt with all this stuff. I got COVID. I'm just not a typical COVID guy. I got COVID so bad that I think we were 2.5 months into the pandemic, and I found myself in a COVID unit with COVID pneumonia on top, this close to death. And it was dexamethasone, that steroid that brought me back to life. If you're interested, leave a comment. I'd like the ebook. I did a 5,000 word ebook on my, it's a diary type thing, and it's a, if you're interested in reading, I'll send it to you for free. Just drop your email in the comment section and I'll send it out to you. It's a diary of what I went through and the treatment. From the time I got it till the time I totally recovered was almost 4 months. I'd never been that sick in my life, but I came through it. And with really not that many residual effects. For a while, I thought I had long COVID. I had a lot of chronic fatigue. And then I had adrenal fatigue after that. It was very, very difficult. But I got through it, and here I am. In 2016, I went through bankruptcy. Uh, that's tough enough. Worked my way back, worked hard, got back, and then last year, we had 2 hurricanes came in. My house got flooded, 2.5 feet of water, lost everything again. But it doesn't really matter because I'm in a place where I know what's important today and I can get the material stuff back, but I want to keep myself calm and resourceful so I can help people like you that are watching this. Now, you're saying, okay, you've gone through all this stuff. That justifies, right, what I've done. Now, what did I do despite it? I've had all this stuff. Tourette syndrome alone has hamstrung me throughout my life, but I didn't let it stop me. It would knock me down, but I didn't stay down. And that's the whole idea behind the resilient boomer, is dealing with these changes. We'll get knocked down, but we don't want to stay down. What did I do? Well, I've always lived from a place of following my passions. And for the last, I want to say 33, 34 years, I haven't done anything in my work vocationally that I didn't want to do. And that was even after bankruptcy. I was not going to get a job. I'm an entrepreneur. I started over and I got my copywriting business up going, and I, increased my digital marketing agency. And I'm also have another business. I'm a comedy magician. I've done that since I was 14. I discovered magic and that consumed me. And I've been doing it professionally for the last half a century. Uh, and I'm a comedy magician. I'm also a sleight of hand artist. So I do cards, coins, real sleight of hand. That's the stuff I started out with. And it was actually a treatment for me, a diversion from the Tourette syndrome. What happens is when you're focused, when I'm on stage, you won't see any ticks because I'm so focused on what I'm doing that you don't see any ticks. A different part of my brain takes over so I don't tick, right? So I spend a lot of time, that was therapeutic, learning magic and doing this stuff. Very, very, very therapeutic for the Tourette's. So I developed that. My mom wanted me to go to college, and I went to college. And I got a degree in habilitative science. It was very new at that time. There was only 2 programs like it in the country. One in Clarion University in Pennsylvania, where I attended school, and one out in California somewhere. And now habilitative science is everywhere. But when I got out of college, I worked for a mental health center for about 5 years. And then I went to a Center for Independent Living, which was a disability organization. And by the time I was 29 years old, I was the executive director of that. But I didn't want to do that. I want to say 3.5 years later, I only follow my passions. I quit that job and I went into show business full time. I had built a talent agency in 1987, and I quit my job, I think, in 1992, and I sold the agency in 2001. So that entertainment thing, and that was in a very rural part of Pennsylvania where everybody said it couldn't be done. Tell me something can't be done, and I'm going to do it, right? That's just my attitude with it. So uh, a couple of years after I did that, I'd been listening to personal development tapes, hundreds of them, literally hundreds of them. And I read dozens of motivational books. And I started putting these principles into practice. And they worked, right? These motivational success-based principles, things like perseverance and never giving up. And I said, I was reading this and listening to this literature every day. I said, I could do this. And I could make it very entertaining using magic to illustrate my message. So that's what I did. For the next 20 years, I put together a speech and I did workshops and trainings and keynotes in 45 states all over Canada, the Caribbean, because I just went after it, right? I had these skills. And what was my topic? Resilience. It's not what happens to you in life that matters, it's what you do with it that makes all the difference. And that you can be successful regardless, because I was quote unquote successful despite having all these problems, Tourette syndrome, recovering from alcoholism, right? In there, I thought, hey, I want to do a radio call-in show. So I had a friend, this is in Pennsylvania, that owned a radio station. He said, come on, I'll teach you the business. And I went in and did what's called voice tracking. We put together a 5-hour show, my shift, on computer where I would do the lead in and they'd record it. And then I'd be on the road somewhere. I could be maybe in Las Vegas doing a keynote, and then my show would run that night. So I learned the radio business. It didn't get to the point where I had a call-in show, but had a lot of fun. And like I said, I was on the road as a motivational speaker, and then I had the digital marketing agency and the copywriting. I became a direct response copywriter. That's been knocked out pretty much by Chat GPT and AI. And that's one of the reasons I set up this channel, because now I'm a YouTuber, right? And I set this channel up for boomers like you to help navigate these changes, because a lot of boomers are like, what in the hell? What is going on here, right? These changes, I can't keep up. Well, I'm going to help you navigate it. And basically what it's going to be, it's a lot of mindset stuff, because if you're still healthy and you can just concentrate, you can get through this stuff. It's really not that bad. But I wanted to make this video just to show you that I've gone through quite a bit, and I've learned a lot of different things that I've needed to learn to keep myself balanced, to keep myself calm, to keep myself collected, keep myself resourceful no matter what happens. So if you found this useful, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. And if you really want to go a little deeper, hit that notification button so you get notified every time I put out a video. And I appreciate you for being here and sticking with me. I got a lot more great content coming up. Just remember this: resilience. It's not about age, it's about attitude. I'll see you in the next one.